Welcome to Dark Hours. Tonight we're diving into brand new Walmart horror stories. Before we start, hit subscribe and tell me in the comments what time it is for you and where you're watching from. Headphones on, lights off. Let's begin. If I hadn't run out of coffee, none of this would have happened. That's what I keep telling myself when I lie awake. If I'd shaken the tin and settled for the bitter dust, if I'd told myself I could survive one morning on hot water in spite, I wouldn't have been at Walmart at 11:27 p.m. under a buzzing lamp with a swarm of bugs. I wouldn't have whispered in and out like a promise I meant to keep. I live alone, and most things I do are alone. My little apartment sits above a nail salon that glows pink and blue until midnight. I like that hum of neon. It's easier than silence. But I was out of coffee and nearly out of excuses for why I felt so drained. So I pulled on a hoodie, grabbed my keys, and told myself I'd be back in 10 minutes with a tub of dark roast and maybe a frozen pizza I didn't need. Late night Walmart has its own sound, not the daytime chaos, but something that feels like the building itself is breathing. A forklift coughs somewhere, a single cart squeaks, the PA system clears its throat for an announcement that never comes, the fluorescent lights buzz like they're tired of shining, every aisle feels too long, every corner feels like a decision. I carried a hand basket because baskets mean business. Carts are for wandering, coffee, dish soap, maybe cereal if it was on sale. That was the plan. I cut through cleaning supplies, passing two employees unpacking paper towels. One had AirPods in, the other had a box cutter. Neither even looked up. I liked it better that way. I found the coffee fast. Ugly label, big tub, cheap, but strong. It tastes like it's trying. We have that in common. I tossed in a frozen pepperoni pizza too because hunger always wins at midnight. Then I swung towards cereal. That's when I saw him. At the end of the aisle, black hoodie, hood up, hands stuffed in the pocket. Not big, not small. Just still. He wasn't looking at cereal. He wasn't looking at anything. His eyes were angled wrong, like he was staring at something behind the wall. The word that popped into my head wasn't danger, it was avoid. So I lowered my gaze and walked past, whispering the story to myself. He could be waiting for someone, deciding between brands, an employee on break. Coincidence, that's all. I grabbed cereal and cut into cleaning supplies. He was there again, same posture, same stillness, as if the aisle had rotated around him. A cold trickle slid under my ribs. Not fear yet, just the first draft of it. I picked up dish soap like nothing was wrong, sticking to the plan. Plans keep you safe. I detoured into electronics, bright TVs, glass counters, an employee humming while unpacking games. I pretended to browse phone cases, using the glass as a mirror. No hoodie in sight. Relief loosened me. Maybe I was paranoid. Maybe he just looked like the type your brain files under wrong. But then I turned back toward grocery, and there he was again, closer this time, standing like a pilot light that shouldn't be lit. Checkout wasn't far. I told myself, just pay and go. On the way, I grabbed 2 cans of beans for no reason except they felt good in my hand. Weight is comfort. I scanned my items, watched him in the reflection of the self-checkout screen. He stood by the exit, nothing to buy, just staring at the anti-theft sensors like they were art. When his lips shined under the lights, slick and wet, my stomach turned. That detail made him too human. The receipt printed. I scooped my basket in my arms and moved for the doors. No bag, just leave. The night was warm and damp. My car waited at the far end of the lot, 2 rows past the buggy corral. I kept my eyes soft, pretending I only saw my car, but my ears strained for footsteps, and I heard them. 10 paces back, soft, steady, not running, just there. My walk quickened. So did his. By the time I hit my row, my heart was hammering hard enough to choke me. I fumbled for my keys, praying for the chirp. My car beeped, cheerful and hollow. Get in. Don't drop anything. Don't talk. Just get in. That's when he lunged. Not for my bag, not my arm, my foot. He snatched my ankle so fast my shoe slid off. He caught it and pressed it to his face like it was holy. He inhaled, deep, deliberate, eyes closed, a sigh, like someone smelling roses. My brain stuttered, trying to make sense of it. A shoe. My shoe. Then I moved. I swung the basket into him with both hands. The coffee tub smashed his arm and the basket clattered down. One can rolled under my car, the other spun in a circle. He didn't let go of the shoe. He smiled. That smile, that calm, slow curve, was worse than the grab. I hurled the remaining can at his face. It thudded against his cheek. He laughed, half gasp, half mocking. The shoe finally fell. I screamed. A raw, cracked, "Hey!" that vanished into the night. Nobody came. No cart kid, no employee, no witness. Just me and him. He dove again, not for me, but the shoe. I kicked him, barefoot, and snatched it back. I flung it into my car, followed by the pizza. I shoved the coffee onto the passenger seat with shaking hands. He straightened, hood fallen back. His hair was matted, his eyes too wet. He touched the spot where the can hit. No blood. He looked surprised at that. Then he said slowly, "I've been waiting to..." I slammed my door and locked it. The click startled him. He yanked the handle, hard, then stopped, watching me through the glass like a kid at an aquarium. Calm. Too calm. I started the engine. He planted both palms on my windshield and dragged them down in long smears, mouth open, expression serene. My skin crawled. I reversed anyway, swerving until the lamps dissolved into fog behind me. I parked 2 blocks from home because my hands shook too badly to steer the alley. I sat crying into my sleeve until anger burned through the fear. When I finally called the store, the woman on the line asked, "Did you assault a customer?" Like I was the problem. Asset Protection promised to review cameras. They asked if I'd thrown merchandise. I said yes. I said I'd do it again. The next day they called back. Cameras showed improper behavior. He'd been there multiple nights, tampering with items. They banned him. They flagged his face. But they also documented me for throwing beans. 2 days later, a cop knocked. Young, polite, almost apologetic. They'd picked him up after he posted videos licking items in another Walmart. He was charged with criminal damage, disorderly conduct. Not for what he did to me. And the officer, carefully, hinted that Walmart had also banned me. "Some businesses take a broad approach," he said, like reading from a script. I haven't been back. I buy coffee elsewhere now, more expensive and worse, but safer. My shoe sits by the door like a punished dog. I scrubbed it twice even though it looked clean. Sometimes I stare at it and still see his face inhaling it like a prayer. Friends ask why I didn't scream sooner, why I didn't call 911, why I didn't grab an employee. I don't know how to explain the math women do in public, the calculation between being dramatic and being dead. The instinct to solve things quietly so you don't become a spectacle. The truth? I didn't want to believe a stranger chose me. I didn't want the night to become a story. I just wanted coffee. But now it's the story I carry. Sometimes I replay it. I imagine asking the kid in electronics for help or confronting the hoodie man head-on. But the version that's real is silence until a shoe was lifted to a face. People laugh about Walmart stories, dancing men, screaming kids, viral pranks. But under the laughter is the darker list. What people do when they think nobody's watching. The line between prank and threat. The way a late-night store feels like a world with fewer rules. I don't know if he meant to hurt me. I don't know if I was just a character in his fetish. I only know the smell he took from my shoe was real, and I can't unknow that. Now, when I shop at night, I keep my head up, basket close, keys ready. If that makes me paranoid, fine. Maybe I earned it. I don't care if people think I'm dramatic, because I'm tired of telling the story about the night I ran out of coffee. I just want to drink it in peace. The last time I shopped late, I caught sight of a figure at the end of the aisle. My whole body froze. Then he shifted, and I realized it was a cardboard cutout of a smiling chef promoting lasagna. I laughed out loud. A passing woman smiled at me knowingly. Maybe she understood. Maybe she was doing her own quiet math too. I finished my list, paid at a real checkout, stepped into the night, and locked my car doors tight. The coffee I brewed the next morning tasted bitter and cheap, just as it should. Normal. Blessedly, wonderfully normal. If I'm being honest, I didn't walk into Walmart that night expecting anything strange. I wasn't out for drama or excitement. I just needed a new work bag. The zipper on mine had split clean down the middle that morning, and my boss has this thing about professional appearances. To him, the bag I carry matters more than the work I actually do out of it. So, after putting it off all day, I figured I'd run in, grab a cheap replacement, maybe a few groceries, and head back home before midnight. Simple. It was a Tuesday, late, close to 10:30. Walmart at that hour feels halfway asleep, brightly lit like a hospital, but with long aisles so empty your own footsteps sound too loud. I parked 2 rows from the entrance under a buzzing lamp. the kind that makes a noise like it has a sore throat. A kid was wrangling a rope of carts across the lot, his safety vest sliding off one shoulder. He had that blank night shift look like he'd rather be anywhere else. The automatic doors gave that tired two-syllable sigh when they opened, almost like a person giving up. Inside, the place hummed with its usual late-night symphony. One machine beeping somewhere in the distance, the squeak of a bad cartwheel, the occasional call over the intercom. It's weird. At night, Walmart feels both safe in its brightness and eerie in its emptiness. I told myself I'd be quick. Work bag, groceries, maybe socks because for some reason the dryer keeps eating mine. But you know how it goes. You start with one thing and end up wandering. My name's Ayan, by the way. I was 30 at the time, tired in the way people get when work becomes more about surviving than thriving. Maybe that's why I didn't notice the man right away. He was by the seasonal aisle when I first spotted him, or maybe he spotted me, hard to tell. I caught movement out of the corner of my eye, someone stumbling more than walking, lurching against a display of discounted pool floats. His clothes were dirty, jeans sagging, a faded football hoodie. His face was red and shiny, and even from a few feet away I could tell he was drunk. Not buzzed. Drunk. At first I did what most people do, looked away. Not my problem. I kept pushing my cart, listening to its faint rattle against the floor, but the man's voice carried, loud, slurred. He was cursing at no one in particular, stringing together words that made no sense, yelling like he wanted the whole store to hear. I turned down the bag aisle, relieved to find it empty. Rows of cheap backpacks, messenger bags, and knockoff leather satchels stared back at me. I picked one up, checked the zipper like a mechanic checking an engine. That's when I heard it again, closer this time. The man was coming my way. I didn't see him right away, but I felt that instinctive prick of awareness, like your body knows before your brain does. His footsteps were uneven, dragging and stomping. Then he appeared at the end of the aisle, swaying, his hands twitching at his sides. "You!" he shouted. I froze, bag in hand. But his eyes slid right past me, landing on the display of duffel bags. He staggered toward them, muttering. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding and tried to look casual, like I wasn't paying attention. He grabbed a bag, ripped it off the hook, and hurled it across the aisle. Then another, and another, like a child throwing a tantrum, except this was a grown man with too much strength and no control. The bag smacked the floor, one hitting the shelf so hard the metal rattled. That's when an employee showed up. She couldn't have been more than 19, ponytail sticking out of her Walmart cap, blue vest too big on her frame. She approached him carefully, hands out like she was calming a dog. "Sir, you need to stop," she said. He laughed, a horrible, guttural sound. Then he climbed. I don't even know how he did it, but he scrambled onto the bottom shelf and started pulling himself up like he was scaling a jungle gym. The metal groaned under his weight. "Get down!" the employee yelled, voice cracking. By now, I wasn't the only one watching. A man in pajama pants with a gallon of milk in his cart stopped. A woman with 2 kids steered them quickly down another aisle. Everyone's eyes flicked to the drunk man as he clawed his way on top of the display like it was a stage. He stood there, arms out, wobbling, and screamed a string of obscenities at the fluorescent lights. The manager showed up next, older guy, glasses slipping down his nose, vest loaded with keys and a walkie-talkie. He looked tired, like this wasn't the first time tonight he'd been called to a scene. "Sir, you need to come down," the manager said firmly. The man spat, actually spat. It hit the floor near the employee's shoes. She flinched back, then he jumped. Not at anyone, just down, landing hard enough that the shelves rattled. He stumbled, grabbed a cart, and flipped it with a roar. The sound of it clattering to the ground echoed through the aisle. That was enough for me. I clutched the bag I'd picked up and slowly started edging away, keeping him in my peripheral vision. I wasn't going to play hero. I've seen enough news stories that start with "bystander tries to intervene" and end badly. The man lunged at another display, knocking down boxes of cereal. The employee had her phone out now, probably calling the cops. The manager was still trying to talk him down, but the man was beyond reason. Red-faced, sweaty, wild-eyed. I ducked into the grocery section, hoping to put some distance between us, but even there, the chaos bled through, his voice booming, the crash of something breaking, the intercom crackling with a nervous employee's voice calling for assistance. Shoppers were scattering. Some left their carts in the aisles and hurried toward the doors. Others lingered at the ends of aisles, peeking out like it was a show they didn't want to miss but were too scared to get close to. I debated leaving too. My car was only a short jog away, but something in me hesitated. Maybe curiosity, maybe stubbornness, maybe that dumb human instinct to watch the fire burn. So I stayed. The man moved erratically, knocking things over, yelling about demons, the government, some conspiracy that only made sense in his head. At one point, he grabbed a pack of socks, tore it open with his teeth, and flung them into the air like confetti. By the time the police arrived, 2 officers moving quickly down the aisle, the place looked like a small war zone. Products littered the floor, displays tilted sideways, carts overturned. The employees looked rattled but relieved. The man fought when they tried to cuff him, kicked, spat, screamed, but eventually they got him down, pressed against the cold tile, wrists bound. His voice broke into sobs as they dragged him out, a strange, almost childlike wail that echoed long after he was gone. Silence settled over the store, broken only by the hum of the lights and the shuffle of employees picking up the mess. I stood there, work bag still clutched to my chest, heart racing. That's when it hit me, the fragility of normal life. One second you're shopping for socks and groceries, the next you're witnessing chaos that could have tipped into violence any moment. The thin line between routine and disaster. I checked out at self-checkout, the bag awkwardly balanced in my cart. The cashier at the lane across from me was still trembling, her hands moving stiffly as she scanned items. Outside, the air felt heavy, humid. The flashing lights of the police car painted the parking lot in pulses of red and blue. I walked quickly to my car, every shadow suddenly sharper. When I got home, I set the bag down on my table and just stared at it. A cheap thing, not built to last, but it felt heavier than it should have, like it carried the whole night inside it. Since then, I don't look at Walmart the same way, or any big store really. There's always that thought in the back of my mind, how quickly things can unravel, how safety is an illusion held together by thin threads. I still go, of course. Life doesn't stop. Work demands don't go away. But I move a little faster, glance over my shoulder more often, pick checkout lanes closer to the exit. Little changes, quiet precautions. And every time the automatic doors sigh open, I wonder, not for the first time, if they're warning me. I work nights, not because I enjoy it, but because rent doesn't care whether you clock in at 3 p.m. or 11 p.m. My name's Alex, I'm 26, and I'm one of those overnight stalkers at Walmart people hardly notice unless we're blocking the aisle with a pallet of soup cans. That night started like most, bright white lights humming overhead, aisles too quiet, the sound of boxes slapping onto shelves. Around 1 a.m. you start running on autopilot. The store is never completely empty. There's always a handful of night wanderers, drunks, insomniacs, moms dragging along kids who couldn't fall asleep. It gets strange sometimes. I was in the hardware aisle, cutting open a box of flashlights, when I noticed him. He was wearing one of our yellow safety vests, not the blue ones the cashiers wear, but the neon reflective kind stalkers use when we're pulling pallets. I didn't recognize him. His beard was patchy, his eyes too wide, darting around like he was cornered. "Hey," I said carefully. "You new?" He smiled without showing teeth. "Yeah, just started." His voice was scratchy, like he hadn't used it in a while. I nodded, but something felt wrong. No name badge, no scanner clipped to his belt, no box cutter. He just stood there, fiddling with the hem of his vest, watching me slice open cardboard. Overnight is a small crew. We all know each other by face, and this guy wasn't one of us. "You on break?" I asked, more to fill the silence. He cocked his head, "Just walking around." That's when it hit me. His sneakers were filthy, laces dragging across the floor. No steel-toe boots like the rest of us. And the vest? Wrinkled, too big, like he'd pulled it out of a dumpster. I forced a laugh. "Well, welcome aboard, I guess." He didn't reply. He just slipped further down the aisle and turned the corner. The thing about night shift is, once management leaves at 10, you're on your own. No managers, no supervisors, just us stalkers and maybe one tired security guard who spends most of his night in the office watching cameras. If something goes wrong, it's your problem first. I tried to shrug it off, but 20 minutes later I saw him again, this time in groceries. He was pushing an empty cart slowly, not shopping, just rolling it, squeak by squeak, looking down every aisle like he was searching for someone. I walked past on my way to paper towels, pretending not to notice. He didn't look at me, just kept rolling that cart. I picked up my radio and called Marcus, my buddy working electronics. "Hey, you notice a new guy tonight? Big yellow vest?" Static, then Marcus's voice crackled through. "Nah, why?" "Says he just started, but I don't think he's ours." Marcus chuckled. "Maybe he's loss prevention. They don't tell us when they hire new ones. That didn't sit right with me. Loss prevention doesn't wear vests. They wear plain clothes, try to blend in. This guy looked like he wanted to be noticed. It was around 2 a.m. when things really got strange. I went to the back room to pull another pallet. The warehouse is darker than the front, only half the lights buzzing overhead. Long rows of shelving stretched 20 feet high, forklifts parked like sleeping animals. That's where I heard it. Footsteps. Not the heavy boots we wear. Soft, dragging, uneven. "Hello?" I called. No answer. I turned down one of the rows and froze. There he was, the man in the vest, standing perfectly still between two pallets of bottled water. His head tilted, watching me. "You can't be back here," I said. My voice cracked more than I wanted. "This area's for employees only." He smiled again, too wide this time, lips pulling back to show yellow teeth. Then he whispered something I couldn't hear. "What?" I asked. He repeated it, louder this time. "I used to work here." A chill crawled up my arms. "All right, buddy, you gotta go." I backed away slowly, hand hovering near the radio clipped to my belt. When I blinked, he was gone. Just like that, vanished into the maze of pallets. I rushed back to the front. Marcus was leaning on the counter in electronics, scrolling his phone. "Did you see that guy?" I hissed. He frowned. "What guy?" "The one in the yellow vest. He was in the back. Said he used to work here." Marcus rolled his eyes. "Man, you're freaking yourself out. We get weirdos every night." "No, he was in the restricted area. He's not just some customer." "Then call security," Marcus said with a shrug. So I did. The guard, Hernandez, looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Mid-50s, stomach hanging over his belt, keys jangling with every step. He followed me reluctantly into the back. We searched for 20 minutes. Nothing. "You sure you weren't seeing shadows?" Hernandez muttered. "These lights play tricks." "I know what I saw," I snapped. He sighed. "Fine. Let's check cameras." The office was cramped, lined with monitors. Hernandez scrolled back through the feeds. And sure enough, there he was, the man in the vest, in groceries, in hardware, even standing at self-checkout, just staring at the machines. But then, "Wait, go back," I said. On the monitor, I watched myself in the back room, calling out, backing away. But the camera showed only me, no man. My stomach dropped. "See?" Hernandez smirked. "Nobody there." I wanted to argue, but my throat was tight. I tried to keep working, but the rest of the night dragged like a nightmare. Every aisle felt too long, every shadow seemed to thicken. Customers thinned until it was just the crew and the hum of fluorescent lights. At 3:30, I went to clock out for lunch. That's when I saw it. On my locker, taped to the door, was a yellow vest, dirty, wrinkled. My name scrawled across the tag in black marker. I froze. Marcus walked by chewing a granola bar. "What's that?" I tore it down and held it up. He raised his eyebrows. "Weird joke, man." But his voice wasn't convinced. I didn't eat that night, didn't talk much. I just kept glancing over my shoulder, waiting for him to come back. But he never did. When my shift ended at 7 a.m., I walked out into the sunrise, feeling like I'd survived something I couldn't explain. Later, I asked one of the older employees about it. Teresa, who'd been there 20 years, went quiet when I described the vest. Finally, she said, "We had a guy, years back. Overnight stalker. He had a breakdown. They found him in the back hanging from a safety harness, still wearing his vest." She lowered her voice. "They say sometimes he still wanders. Can't let go." I don't know what I saw that night, a ghost, a hallucination, or maybe just someone messing with me. But every time I slip on my vest now, I wonder if it used to be his. And when the aisles get too quiet, I swear I can still hear that cart squeaking. I wasn't supposed to be on the floor that night. I was set for receiving, me, a box cutter, and a playlist that sours with exhaustion. But Doug, the night manager, caught me in the break room, electronics keys dangling like he'd picked my fate. "Need you out front till 2, he said. "Electronics. Then toys." I said I didn't know the layout. "You know how to point," he replied, clapping my shoulder. I clocked in. Rent doesn't care. I'm Jason, with a kid who needs 7 strawberries in his cereal and a bank account that hates me. Nights pay more, but they draw misfits. By 10:15 p.m., the store had that fake late-night quiet. Lights blazed, PA mumbled, "Welcome to Walmart." Self-checkout clerk fought blinking lights. Electronics glowed under TV screens, making us look faded. I saw him in the controller case's reflection. Not his face, his movement. DVD shoppers move fast, fingers flick, eyes jump. He drifted, slow, always angled to see me without looking. Dark jacket, hoodie, curly hair from a hat. Black backpack, heavy, strap twisted, squared off like it had bones. A mom wanted a tablet for YouTube. I sold her a cheap one with a case. An old man got printer ink, griping about costs. I nodded, heard it before. The backpack guy drifted to prepaid phones, flash drives, smart plugs. Back to phones. No touching, just staring. I watched him in the glass. He kept me in his casual act. He spoke, body still. "Bathroom?" "Up front, by customer service," I said. He blinked slow. "The employee bathroom." I lied. "No public one in back. Doors stick back there, boxes prop them open." He nodded, filing my lie. "Thanks." He stayed, lingered by cameras, reading fine print too long. His backpack clinked. Metal, soft like keys. Kelsey from Domestics borrowed our box cutter. "See the backpack guy?" she whispered. "He was in apparel, kept hitting the fitting room hallway, then backing out. Casey says let him steal." She rolled her eyes. "Nights suck." I told her to call Doug if he went past employees only. She saluted and left. I turned up my radio. The air felt heavy. He brought pressure. A nurse bought batteries and a Mountain Dew. A couple argued in seasonal over bins. The TV creak looped endlessly. By 11 o'clock, the store exhaled its last. Just me, the hum, and him, avoiding where I was. When aisles cleared, he approached, reading my lanyard. "Jason," he said. "Help you?" I asked. "How many exits?" "Electronics. Vision. Garden." I said gardens closed, front doors only. He pointed at the employees only door. "That one?" "Back of house," I said. His backpack creaked, zippers clicked. He smiled, hiding a joke. "Need a universal charger." I grabbed one, asked cash or card. He said he'd be back. He vanished into seasonal. My radio crackled. "Jay," Casey said, "guy's asking for you. Backpack. Wants to show you something. Told him to wait by electronics." "Keep him there," I said. He was by the coin machine, eyes too bright, smiling like we'd planned this. He set his backpack down, unzipped it halfway. "I want to return something," he said. "Not for customer service." I walked fast, not running, through appliances, past microwaves, through the employees-only door. Back hallways smelled of dust, lights buzzed. I aimed for the break room, needing walls. He was there by the fridge, backpack on the table. A floor mat propped the maintenance door open. He'd mapped the store. "You're fast," he said, voice soft, coaxing. "You can't be here," I said, grabbing my radio. "Doug." "Don't," he said, certain. He unzipped the backpack fully, the sound sharp. "I make things," he said. "It helps." Inside, metal plates, a taped-on kitchen timer, wires, coiled extension cord. The timer's switch was cracked. "It's not for you," he said. "It's for the doors. They shouldn't lock unless you say so." My mouth dried. "Leave." He reached for the plug. I grabbed a chipped Walmart mug and threw it, fear making my arm weak. It hit his forearm. The timer fell, spilling gears. He blinked, disappointed, colder than anger. He packed the pieces, shouldered the bag. At the door, he said, "You're helpful, not kind. We'll try again when you're ready." He was gone before Doug's "What's on the radio?" Doug, Kelsey, and Angel crowded in. I stood with a broken timer and a rolling mug, sounding crazy, saying, "He was here." Doug called 911, voice stiff. Police came fast. Device mentions do that. An officer bagged the timer's pieces, asked if he plugged anything in. "No," I said, sure. That unplugged cord was the night's mercy. They checked the garden gate, keypad door, ceiling tiles. Casey said he asked for me by name. We stayed in pairs, every sound wrong. Squealing pallet jack, beeping rotisserie. I stocked headsets, hands shaking, jumping at my radio. Kelsey asked if I was okay. "I threw a mug," I said. "Good," she said. The officer offered to let me go home. Doug said we were short, I stayed. Hours matter, and the lot felt like eyes. At 4:10 a.m., I stared at the break room door, willing answers. I made coffee, let it cool, watched the TV creak loop. Morning stained the doors orange. Day crew arrived, chatting about weather. I clocked out, hands not mine. In my car, I locked the doors, checked the back seat twice. Passing the garden side, I saw scuff marks by the maintenance door. Maybe old, maybe not. Doug texted at noon. PD got footage, grainy. Backpack guy walked garden fence at 9:40, entered at 10:05, hit electronics, apparel, fitting rooms, break room, maintenance hall, increased security tonight. Need you. I stared, my spaghetti cold. I thought about quitting. Mornings, my kid. But bills don't budge. I'll be there, I texted. At school, my son's backpack made me flinch. He told a cow joke I laughed at without getting. At 9:50 p.m., I parked in my usual spot, lot damp, lights humming, a cart kid wrestled carts. I watched the sliding doors breathe, sensors blinking. Inside, Doug taped a sign. No unauthorized personnel. We laughed, not really. Stay in pairs, he said. In receiving, boxes and tape felt safe. I stacked headsets too neatly, broke down cardboard too carefully. At midnight, a new mug sat by the microwave, unchipped, replacing mine. It felt like a lie. Doug's radio hissed. PD says he was testing reactions. My fear, data. I ate a tasteless sandwich, eyeing the mug. I don't know what he built, bomb, door trick, or worse. I don't know if we'll try again meant here, or me. But I know, a zipper's clink, a mug's weight, a choice made fast. I work nights for pay, for my kid. Nights honest, raw. You count exits, learn hallways, keep the mug close. I was 14 the first time my mom let me walk into Walmart by myself. It sounds small when I say it out loud, like one of those boring milestones nobody writes down. First time walking the dog alone, first time ordering your own fries. But in my head it was a big deal. She was meeting her friend in the mall food court right next door and said, "You can cut through to Walmart, grab shampoo and socks, and come straight back. 20 minutes. Call me if you need anything." She pressed a 20 into my hand and added, "Don't dawdle." I said I wouldn't, and then immediately planned to dawdle just a little. Not a lot, just enough to feel like I wasn't a little kid. I'm Nina. I'd just finished freshman year, which I hated, and I had a new plan to become a different person over the summer. I would take care of my skin, quit soda, do 100 squats a day, and stop being scared of doing things alone. My mom letting me walk the 30 yards from the food court doors, across the little strip of trees and the cracked pavement into Walmart. No hand-holding, no cousins, no text me a picture of the aisle sign. Felt like the first square on that board game. It was one of those overcast afternoons that tricks you into carrying an umbrella you never use. Parking lot heat lifted in waves off the asphalt. Shopping carts clanked together in a train, pushed by a kid whose vest was 2 sizes too big. The automatic doors opened with a sigh that always sounds like a tired person giving up. Inside it smelled like plastic, rubber, and the popcorn they never sell enough of. And the lights were so bright, everything looked too honest. I told myself to move with purpose. Shampoo, socks, maybe a cheap lip balm if it didn't push me over 20. Be efficient. Be that girl who can be trusted. Cosmetics is right up front in our store, between vitamins and the seasonal aisle where they stack beach toys in net bags. I stood in front of the shampoo options and tried not to take forever. There's a weird panic that hits when you realize nobody is here to tell you the right choice. My hair is frizzy if I don't baby it, and the bottle I normally use was on the top shelf, price tag $7.47. I reached up, dropped it into a red basket, and felt proud in a way that would be embarrassing to admit to literally anyone. That's when I noticed him. It wasn't, boom, a man appeared, like in scary stories. It was more like a shadow in the corner of my eye that stayed where I went. He'd been in the same aisle, a few feet down, pretending to read the back of hair dye boxes. 30s, maybe. Hard to tell. Hairline starting to give up. Khaki pants that didn't fit right, and a collared shirt tucked too tight. No basket. No cart. He didn't feel like a person shopping. He felt like a person waiting. I told myself to relax. People exist near you. That's allowed. I moved to deodorants. He moved to body wash. I drifted toward lip balm. He drifted toward deodorants. It was like a slow mirror, off by one aisle. I picked a lip balm anyway, because I promised myself I would dawdle a tiny bit for fun, not because I was scared. I made my way toward the socks, which are on the other side of the store past shoes and pajamas, and the whole time I told myself I was being dramatic. Then I caught him in the reflection of a metal end cap. He was pretending to scroll his phone while walking at the same speed as me along the main aisle, angled just enough that if I looked over my shoulder I'd see him but could tell myself he wasn't behind me. I stopped by the display of novelty slippers shaped like sharks. He stopped at a rack of foam insoles. I squinted at sizes written in thick black marker on a cardboard sign. He pretended to read the returns policy posted on the pillar. I felt my face go hot and then angry at my face for going hot. It's so stupid how your body tells on you before your brain decides how to feel. Socks were quick. 6-pack, black, ankle, 5.97. I dropped them into the basket and took a breath I hoped looked normal. I headed toward self-checkout because being done felt like the right kind of smart, and also because I wanted walls and other people around me, not long aisles and the sound of my own footsteps. Our store's self-checkout is set up like a little horseshoe corral, one worker in a yellow vest standing in the center watching for red lights. Casey was there that day, mid-20s maybe, hair in a ponytail, gum chewing like a rhythm section. I smiled at her, and she smiled back in a, we don't actually know each other but we see each other way. I scanned my shampoo. The machine beeped loud enough that my hand jumped. I scanned the socks, then the lip balm. The total came up under 20. I fed the bill into the slot, and the machine ate it in slow motion like it knew I wasn't breathing. When I looked up, he was walking past the entrance to the corral, not going to any register, just circling like a shark that doesn't know it's a metaphor. He did a lap, then another. He wasn't holding anything. Casey glanced at him and then glanced away, bored or used to it or both. I grabbed my bag and receipt and told myself, "You're fine. Walk. Not fast. Not slow. The mall is right there. Inside people. Inside noise. Inside mom." Outside, the light had shifted into that late afternoon orange that makes the sky look like a filter on your phone. A breeze kicked up and pushed a few napkins along the ground like little white crabs. I could see the glass doors of the mall about 40 steps away, the ones that open into a hallway that leads straight to the food court. I could already hear the echo of trays and the sizzle of whatever oil they use at the chicken place. Footsteps behind me set up camp in my head. They weren't trying to be quiet. They also weren't normal. Normal footsteps line up with you, behind, ahead. These were off to the side, keeping a perfect diagonal like we were connected by a short, invisible string. I didn't turn around. If I did, and it was him, I didn't know what I was going to do with my face. I have AirPods, but I wasn't wearing them. I could feel their case in my pocket like a decision I hadn't made. I crossed the strip of trees and the cracked pavement between the buildings. A bird yelled at nothing from a light pole. The mall doors sighed open, and the cooler air touched my skin and made me realize how sweaty my palms were. The hallway to the food court is lined with weird art from local schools. Clay tiles and frames with names like Sunset Over River that look more like blobs. I tried to focus on them. People passed me going the other direction, carrying bags. A toddler wailed about a balloon that was floating near the ceiling like a captured moon. I could feel him. I didn't have proof, but I could feel him. The food court hit like a stage. It's always bright and loud and smells like everything at once. Fried, sweet bread, meat, sugar. I scanned the tables for my mom with the hungry panic of someone searching for a lifeguard. She wasn't there. Her friend was, though, waving her arms when she saw me like she wanted me to come over. My mom had probably gone to the bathroom or one of the little shops along the edge. I didn't want to walk deeper in. I didn't want to keep moving. I chose a table with a view of the entrance and sat down like I had a plan. I put my Walmart bag on the chair next to me and pulled out my phone and pretended to scroll. This is what you're supposed to do, right? Make yourself look like you belong to a reason. He stopped near the pizza counter, not close enough to be an obvious problem, not far enough to be harmless. He leaned on the wall like leaning was a job and looked anywhere but me, which is how I knew he was looking at me. His hands were in his jacket pockets, thumbs hooked. His jaw moved once like he was biting the inside of his cheek. He had a little sweat at his hairline, and the idea of noticing that detail made me disgusted with the way my brain collects things without permission. I wanted to laugh so I wouldn't cry because suddenly it felt ridiculous that all I had was a feeling. What do you even say to a grown-up? A man exists near me? The part of my head that likes to argue told me I was being dramatic. The part that lives in my neck and spine told me to run. He took his phone out like he'd decided he didn't care if being obvious made it worse. He didn't hold it up high like a tourist. He held it low, the way guys in YouTube videos do when they think they're clever, lens tilted up. He did that slow pan across the food court, pretending to shoot the fountain and the kids at the gumball machine and the menu boards. And then the camera settled like it had arrived at the subject it always meant to find. Me. I stared at my phone until the numbers on the lock screen meant nothing. I tapped it open and texted Mom, "Where are you?" in all caps, and the 3 dots popped up and then stopped and then popped up again, and I wanted to climb into them and hide. I felt heat crawl up my neck. My heart thudded so hard my palms went numb. I pressed my thighs together under the table like that would anchor me. A woman mopping near the trash station looked over and said gently, "Honey, you okay?" She couldn't have been more than 30, hair tucked under a bandana, eyes soft in the way some people have soft eyes. I didn't want to make a scene. I didn't want to be the girl who cried. But my mouth said, "That man is recording me," in a voice that didn't sound like it came from me at all. She followed my gaze. Her face went from soft to sharp in 1 second, and she pushed her mop bucket forward like she was moving a knight on a chessboard. She parked it between me and him and said, loud enough for other people to hear, "Sir, you can't film kids. Put your phone away." He blinked. The corners of his mouth twitched like he wanted to smile but couldn't figure out which muscles made that happen. He lowered the phone slowly, calmly, like he was complying not because he should, but because he felt like changing tactics. Then he pushed off the wall and walked away, not out, not to a table, just into the flow of people, phone still in his hand, shoulders loose. My mom showed up then, crossing the food court with the fast walk she uses when she's trying to seem like she's not running. Her friend was behind her, waving at security like they were waiters who'd missed our order. Mom put her hand on my back and asked, "What happened?" in that thin voice she uses when she's trying not to cry. The janitor woman answered for me. "A man was recording her," she said. "He moved when I told him to stop." Mom's face did a thing I've only seen twice, once when my little brother ran into the road when he was 4, once when she got the call about my aunt's car accident. It's like all the blood leaves and then rushes back, and she becomes 2 people at once. The version who wants to scream and the version who will handle it. Mall security came fast, 2 of them, radio static stitched to their shoulders. One took notes and the other scanned the edges of the food court like the guy might be taped to the ceiling. They asked questions the way I imagine cops do in shows. What did he look like? How old? What was he wearing? Did he say anything? Did he touch you? Did you see where he went? Did you see a car? It's amazing how useless your brain gets when you need it. Khaki pants, I said. Collared shirt. Thinning hair. Phone in his right hand. I tried to remember the shoes and got mad at myself for not memorizing his shoes like some kind of detective prodigy. He was in Walmart too, I added, and the words felt like confessing I'd stolen something. One officer asked if I wanted them to call the police. Mom said yes. I wanted the floor to open and swallow me because all the people who hadn't noticed me before were noticing me now. 2 teenage boys at the bubble tea place, whisper laughed, like it was a prank unfolding. A woman with a stroller stared too long. Somebody took a picture. Every phone looked like his phone. Every hand looked like it could turn into a lens. They never found him. Or if they did, they didn't tell us. We watched security camera footage in a little office that smelled like dust and printer ink. It proved I existed and sat at a table and looked uncomfortable while a dozen strangers lived their lives around me. It proved a man at the pizza counter leaned and then moved and then vanished into a crowd. It didn't prove the one thing the pit of my stomach already knew. The police officer who came was kind in the way of someone trying to climb through the right words to get to you. She asked if I wanted to file a report. Mom said yes. The officer said they'd take a statement, pull any Walmart footage they could, see if loss prevention had eyes near the entrance. She said the words, "if he's done this before," and I felt the world tilt just enough to make me think about how many ifs are really whens. At home, I took a shower that felt like it lasted an hour and scrubbed my skin like my skin had been told a secret. I lay in bed with my phone on my chest and my door open and the hall light on like I was 5. Every time a car drove past our house, the shadows jumped and rearranged themselves, and I had to tell my brain to stop showing me a man in every shape. For weeks, the world shrank. I wouldn't go to Walmart alone, even though it felt stupid not to. I stuck to my mom's side in the mall like a magnet. When I saw a man with a phone held low, my stomach flipped the way it does when you miss a step. I'd never realized how many cameras there are until I started trying to count them. Phones, store domes in the ceiling, dash cams peeking out of windshields at red lights. The little lens in our laptop, my mom taped over with a Post-it because she'd read something once and laughed, but she didn't take it off. One afternoon, a week later, I saw a girl about my age in the cereal aisle, alone, laughing quietly at something on her phone. A man stood one aisle over, pretending to compare granola bars. My heart sprinted at the cage of my ribs. I walked past her and said, lightly, "Hey, do you know where the Pop-Tarts are?" It was a lie. I know where everything in our Walmart is. She blinked and smiled and said, "2 aisles down." And in that second, the man drifted away like smoke. I kept walking. I didn't wait for proof. I hated that I needed to do that. I hated that it felt like the right thing. Sometimes I dream about the exact moment the janitor's mop bucket rolled between me and him. The squeak of its wheels is louder in my head than it was in real life. In the dream, she doesn't speak. She just parks it and looks at him with a face that says, "I see you." And he evaporates, turns to mist, and the phone in his hand becomes a piece of black ice that slides under a table and melts. Reality was less satisfying. He just left. He probably still has the video. It sits somewhere. Phone storage, cloud backup, one of those folders guys label with boring names so nobody clicks them. Sometimes I picture it as a still frame. Me, 14, sitting at a table with my Walmart bag on the chair beside me, pretending to scroll, trying to arrange my face into something that won't cry. Freeze-framed forever by someone who didn't ask to own that moment. The worst part isn't that he recorded me. The worst part is the way your world changes shape and no one else sees it. My mom watches me walk to the bus now like she's timing an experiment. My friends say, "That's so creepy," and "Ugh, men," and then send me TikToks that make me laugh so hard my sides hurt, and I love them for it. But when I stand in a line and feel eyes on my shoulder blades, nobody else flinches. When a stranger lifts his phone and I have to check if the lens points at me, nobody else does the math. I kept the shampoo, I wore the socks. I went back to Walmart with my aunt 2 weeks later in broad summer daylight and made myself walk the same aisles. I took a longer time than I needed in cosmetics on purpose. My hands still shook a little, but not enough to drop the basket. When I passed the pizza counter in the food court afterward, I made myself look there too. The wall looked like a wall. The light looked like light. I took a breath and it felt like mine. I don't have a neat ending to offer you. Nobody got arrested. There was no dramatic confrontation where I smashed a phone and everyone clapped. The janitor didn't get a medal. The security guards went back to telling kids not to skateboard near the fountain. If this was a video on my feed, it would cut to a text overlay. Stay safe. Trust your gut. People would argue in the comments about whether I overreacted or not. What I actually have is smaller and heavier than an ending. It's a plan for all the other girls who are 14 right now and will be 15 soon and 16 after that. It's a list I didn't want but keep anyway. Don't wear both AirPods when you're alone. If someone asks you anything that starts with, "Hey little girl," don't answer, just move. Sit with your back to a wall if you can. If you need to, make eye contact with a worker and say, "Can you help me?" Someone is following me. Practice that exact sentence because your mouth will forget words when you need them. When you feel stupid for being careful, remember how stupid it feels to be sorry. If you see me in Walmart and I'm alone, I'll probably look like I have a mission. I'll pick up my shampoo. I'll debate lip balms because apparently that's my destiny. I'll buy socks with my own money. I'll put my bag on the chair beside me like it's a person I brought with me. Because sometimes pretending you're not alone is one step away from not being alone. And if I see you and you look 14 in that way that is both brave and breakable, I'll say something dumb and friendly about Pop-Tarts or how weird the lights make everything look. If a man tilts his phone in a way that makes the little hairs on your arm stand up, I'll be the mop bucket between you and him until we find somebody with a badge. My mom still asks if I'm okay when I come back from the store. I tell her yes most days. On the days I don't feel like lying, I say, mostly. She squeezes my shoulder like she's reminding the world that this is attached to her and can't be borrowed. I'm grateful for that. I'm also grateful for the janitor with the soft eyes that turned sharp and the mop that squeaked like a warning. People think the scariest part of stories like this is the following. That's scary, sure, but what scared me more was the moment I realized he didn't care that he was in public. We tell ourselves crowds make us safe. He looked right at the crowd and pressed record. I don't know his name. He doesn't know mine. He knows my face, and the way I kept my hands still on the table like that could hold me together. He knows the way a 14-year-old looks when she decides not to run, because running will make the thing chasing her more real. I still go to the mall. I still walk into Walmart alone sometimes because I refuse to be haunted by a grocery store. I didn't become a different person this summer like I planned. I became more myself, which is both less dramatic and, I think, braver. I'm learning that acting like nothing bad will happen isn't strength, it's just pretending. Real strength is knowing the world has teeth and going anyway. If you ever feel it, that prickling at the back of your neck you can't explain, listen, you aren't crazy, you aren't dramatic, you're a person whose body has been practicing survival longer than your brain has been alive. It's not embarrassing to move. It's not rude to say, please stop. It's not childish to ask a stranger to stand between you and whatever makes your skin crawl. And if you see a girl sitting at a table pretending to text, hands too still, eyes on a phone that won't stop shaking, be the person with the mop bucket, even if you don't have a mop, even if all you have is your voice. Park yourself between her and the lens. Make the world look at you instead. It won't fix everything. It didn't fix everything for me. But it turned a moment where I felt like a screenshot into a moment where I felt seen. And sometimes, at 14, that's the difference between going home and breaking. That was the last of tonight's stories. If any of them gave you chills, don't let this be the last time you hear from me. Subscribe to the channel, turn on the bell, and you'll never miss the next dark stories. Trust me, the stories coming next are even more disturbing.